In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the image-to-image function in Fooocus. Let's get started. So here's just a basic example of an image I want to use as an input and then get something like that as the output. As you can see, we have the mountains, we have this path here. We also have the clouds and a bit of fog there. And if you wanted to, you could get even more the same likelihood of this image with the different flowers and so on. And I'm going to show you how to customize it so that you get similar images to your input image. So let's first start from scratch here. First, we're gonna just take the advanced checkbox here and the input image. So as you can see, we have the different tabs here, but in this video, we're gonna solely focus on the image prompt. And this image prompt, if you leave it like that and put in your image and you don't check this advanced checkbox, then it's gonna do a very similar thing to how you use input images in Midjourney. So let me use this as an input image. I'm gonna uncheck the random seed, so we always use the same seed so we can easily track and customize our output image. And I'm just gonna press on generate here. It's gonna generate us 2 images. And the idea behind this is that it's gonna use this image as inspiration for our output images to a certain extent, and then it's gonna use its own creativity, or in other words randomness, to create the output image. If I quickly press the advanced checkbox here, you're gonna see the stop at and the wait. So this is the default values Fooocus is gonna use. So you might be asking yourself what these different numbers mean. The stop at basically means when the input image should stop influencing the final image generated by Fooocus. So for example, if this stop at is at 0.5, that means 50%. If that is at 50%, the final image won't be influenced anymore after 50% has been generated by Fooocus, and then it's gonna use its own randomness to create the final image. And then the wait means how much the input image should influence the final image. So if you say, for example, 60%, then it should look 60% like this, and then 40% it should use its own randomness to create the image. If we put this to 1, which I'm just gonna show you briefly, then it's gonna be looking very similar to this. Now, having used the default parameters here, as you can see, we already get quite a very similar looking image with the mountains, with the path here, with the flowers, with the clouds, with the fog. So all in all, pretty nice. If we wanted to get even closer to this image, as I've said, we can increase the weight. If you don't get results you want to use in the end, then always experiment with the different weights and the stop at. So right now I'm gonna put the weight at 1 and stop at the same at 50%. And by the way, we're just using the input image here without even using a text prompt. If we get, for example, an image here without the path here and we still want to get the path in there, then we just say, for example, beautiful mountain view with a path as an example, or use different prompts. Again, you always have to test a bit around to get the results you want. And as you can see here, now we've got even more the same image as the input image, because now you can see also paths back there, which we also have here in the input image. We have flowers on both sides of the path. We have very similar looking clouds, as you can see. We even have these trees back there, which are also on here. We have the fog, which is there and there, which is also here. We have the sun back there, as you can see here. So all in all, pretty nice, very similar generation. Just to give you an idea, we're also going to use the text prompt now in addition to the input image. So let's say beautiful mountain path. I'm going to reset the weight to 0.6. Let's press on generate. So the idea is, while this is generating, we have a similar looking image, but we want to have, for example, not so many mountains, or we just want to have the mountains and just one path, a lot less grass, or more flowers or less flowers. We would want a person in there, we would want a house in there, or so on. We can put all this into the text prompt, let Fooocus be inspired by this image, and then use our text prompt to generate whatever we want. So this is what it generated with the text prompt and the weight at 60%. So again, a very similar look to our input image. But let's say we want to have this as inspiration and then a house on the image, and we put the weight this time at about 80%. So we say beautiful mountain path with house. And now as you can see, we have our path still here, our mountains, and then we have a nice house here. Same goes for the second image that Fooocus generated. Again, our path, our mountains, our sky with the clouds, the nice flowers, and then our new house in there. So this is basically the image prompt. If you don't get the results you want to have, then you can also try out the Pyrocany or the CPDS. So basically these are two different control nets. There's a pretty nice discussion on GitHub about these image prompts on Fooocus. I will link this down below in the description box. And if you scroll further down here, it's going to explain what these different control nets do and how they work. So basically Pyrocany is a derivation of the original Cany control net. So basically what this Pyrocany does is it creates a line art picture that captures the intricate details of the input image and then applies that to the output image. To give you an idea of what the original Cany control net does, basically, for example, you have this input image and then it's going to generate this line art image here, and then it's going to use that as inspiration for the output image. So it will create something with all these lines. So it will interpret all these lines and then create the output image. Or for example, also the same with the bird here. It's going to recognize all these different intricate details of the input image, and then it's going to use that as an inspiration for the output. Why is it called Pyrocany and not Cany? Basically, the Fooocus team took the Cany control net and then put their own touch on it. If you want to know more about it, you can read more about it here. Let's try it out. Let's press on Pyrocany here. As you can see, it's also going to change the default value to weight of 1. So I'm going to remove our text prompt for now. So it's going to create a line art image out of this one and then use that line art image as inspiration for the output image. So basically it's going to, for example, draw this line here, and then we will have something similar in the output image. As you can see already here in the first output image, we already have this part of the mountain. And again, here we have this part of the mountain here. Every time it's going to look different, and you can input a different text prompt. You can play with the stop at and the weight. And then the other one here is CPDS. So the original control net is just CPD, which stands for contrast preserving decolorization. And then the S is structure. So the CPD control net was taken by the Fooocus team, adjusted a bit in order to get the structure out of the image. So usually the original CPD is going to take, for example, this image, create a structure out of it, and then decolorize it. That's why decolorization is part of the acronym here. But Fooocus, instead of decolorizing it, they're just using the structure algorithm to get the structure of the image. So it's not actually going to decolorize it, but so that the structure of the input image is going to be extracted, and then Fooocus is using that structure to create a new image. So again, the default values here are 0.5 and weight at 1, so 100%. Let's generate that. And while it's generating, by the way, you can again read more about what CPDS does here on the GitHub discussion. And if you want to see even more examples, you can also scroll down further here, and it's going to show you and explain to you what other things you can try out. So this is the first image that Fooocus generated for us. It's really not that similar to our input image. So in this case, I wouldn't go with CPDS, but that's fine. We already found out that the image prompt really worked pretty nicely with pretty high weight. And here's the second image. Again, it's not really what we want to go for. In this case, again, we could go for our text prompt, press on generate. Then if that doesn't give us the results, we could play around with the stop at and the weight. These are our outputs. Now we have the mountain path here, and we have also the clouds up here and the mountains, which is quite a bit better. You could also put in with colorful flowers or with pink flowers or whatever to get it even closer to here. So now that we've looked at these 3 different ways, face swap is another thing we could use, but in this case we don't have any faces, and face swap is not really the focus of this video. If you want to find out more about face swap, we have a different tutorial on that. I will link it down below in the description box. But another thing you can still do here is use even more than one input image. You could go even use 4 different images as input to create an output. So let's say we want to have this mountain view and we want to have a robot in there. So I'm going to use this. I generated this robot also with Fooocus. The thing was, the robot still had some background behind him. So in order to remove the background of the image, I use this tool called remove.bg, which stands for background. You upload the image and then it's gonna remove the background. Then you can export the image, but sometimes the quality of the image is not that great anymore. Then you can go to upscale.media and then upload the image from the remove background tool and then upscale the image. In this case, if you upscale the image, I would not advise you to go for 4x upscaling, but rather for 2x upscaling, because you have to think about that Fooocus has to process every pixel of your input image. So if the image is 3000 by 3000, it's going to take longer than if it was, for example, 1500 by 1500. Instead of using this upscale tool, you could also just use, of course, Fooocus, the tab here, input image, and then upscale. So now back to our two input images. So we're going to use the text prompt robot on beautiful mountain path. We're going to use image prompt for both, and let's go ahead and generate that. If you go back to the Fooocus discussion with the image prompts, they will also have examples on using multiple images as input images. For example, this person and then this nature view with the mountains in background. And then they show you the output images Fooocus generated. Then it's going to show you how to use two images with some text prompt. And then there are even more advanced examples below. But coming back to our Fooocus generation, as you can see, we have this image with our mountain path, with the nice flowers, with the nice sun, clouds, and now we have the bot in there. And then the second image is also very similar, a bit less flowers on this side, not so similar with the path. And of course the robot is not looking the same as the input image. For that you could simply increase the weight here, and let's increase also the stop at to 90%. In this case also you just have to play around with the stop at weight for both images, and then you might also think about using Pyrocani or CBDS. Now you can see that the robot is looking quite similar to the input robot. Even the robot is just being shown with the upper part. For example, you no longer can see his legs. So that's what happens if you put the stop at pretty high. So it's gonna use literally just like that. And then for the remaining 10% of the image generation, then it's just gonna use its randomness to create the image. So as you can see here, we also got a very similar, again, looking robot. We have still our mountain path in the background in both cases. We no longer have our flowers there. So we could then try to reduce the stop at and then increase the stop at here. But you get the point, you just have to play around a bit with it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.